To Nader Hashemi. He's the director of the Center of Middle East Studies, Korbel School of International Studies at the University of Denver. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. So what impact will this agreement have on regional politics?
Well, I think it will, decrease tensions within the region, but primarily among the members of the GCC. But I'm a bit more skeptical than your previous guest, suggesting that the origins of this conflict have now been eradicated and everything will sort of move forward. I think the fundamental differences and tensions between Qatar's vision for the region and Saudi Arabia's vision for the region still remain in place. Um, but obviously, any sort of reduction in tensions, lifting of the blockade is good news. I'm a little bit skeptical in terms of just how transformative this event might be.
So what do you see happening in the future relationship? Do you think it will be back to how it was before 2017?
No, I don't think so, because I think, as I just indicated a moment ago, the tensions and the differences fundamentally remain, and those are differences that are rooted in sort of Qatar's vision for the future of the Middle East, which is supportive of the forces of political change and religious-based parties, versus the vision of Saudi Arabia and the Emirates primarily, who loathe that vision and view Qatar as sort of an instigator and a promoter of instability in the Middle East. So that's not changing. You're absolutely right to point to these 13 demands that were made of Qatar. Those demands, I think, still represent the wishes and the aspirations of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Those aren't going away. But it's pretty clear that the United States of America is not backing those 13 demands. And with the Biden administration coming in, the leverage and the influence that Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have in the Middle East is going to diminish significantly. So I think that's also a factor that explains the timing of this event.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the United States, because they're thought to have had a role in brokering all of this. What do you think their influence might be on any future relationship?
Well, I think the United States' role here is very significant. I would draw your viewers' attention to a very important article on this topic that was published in the New York Times last month by Laura Jakes. And she said that this agreement that we're talking about really is driven by the Trump administration's obsession with Iran. In the following sense, that because of the blockade, Qatar had to pay Iran money for overflight fees because Qatar Airways could not fly over Saudi airspace. And so according to the New York Times, this agreement was fundamentally motivated by Trump's obsession with Iran, and to quote the New York Times, to get, quote, one last kick in at Iran by diminishing its revenues that it was getting from Qatar. So that's the Trump administration's perspective. I think that's a big part of what's going on here, and that's why Jared Kushner is flying to Saudi Arabia tomorrow for the signing ceremony. They think this is a good deal because it squeezes Iran, which is, the Trump administration's primary obsession. With Biden coming in, I think things change. I think there's going to be an attempt to rein in some of these destructive policies that Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have been pursuing. And so we're looking at a very different, I think, U.S. foreign policy toward the Middle East once Joe Biden enters the White House.
All right, thanks very much indeed for joining us today, Nader Hashemi from the University of Denver.